Greetings to you all progressive citizens of our motherland, Zimbabwe. My name is Robson Chere. I'm a rural teacher and also the National Secretary General of Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, a union which fights for proper education in Zimbabwe. Our education system in Zimbabwe is actually on the verge of collapse because the responsible authorities who are supposed to be taking care of our education system are not doing enough. And at the moment, it needs all citizens to converge and say a voice so as to save our education system, which is on the verge of collapse. We understand very well that last year, including even this year, learners did not have adequate learning time due to issues like COVID-19. There was no actually materials that were put in place, measures that were put in place, enough measures that were put in place so that learning could continue even during the era of COVID-19. And we are talking of issues to do with infrastructure material, to talk of furniture. We know because of social distancing, there should have been an adequate supply of furniture so that even our learners will be able to sit, actually giving distance, which will make sure that there is no actual contraction of the disease between the learners. But the government did not actually do more to fund, especially in our public schools. And as a result, it is only the private schools which benefited in education because they were learning, they were having access to online. And in rural schools, most of the rural schools, there was no that facility for online learning. We have got schools which do not even have electricity. And at the same time, you tend to wonder because at the moment you see that ICT is a compulsory subject, but we have got ICT as a compulsory subject at a school where there is even no, even a single laptop or a desktop to talk of. So the responsible authority are not doing enough in terms of catering for education, and we can see that the results were falling. The grade 7 results pass rate were low compared to the previous years as well. The same applies even to the O-level and A-level results. And another thing is that our teachers are not motivated. They are incapacitated. This is a reality which we are talking about. But when they express using constitutional means in terms of expressing their grievance to the employer tends to politicize the issue, labeling teachers as seeking a regime change agenda. Yet we know that teachers are being driven by the hunger. They are being driven also by the need also for their children to learn, because as I speak right now, teachers cannot even afford to pay for fees of their own children at the school that they are teaching, which is a mockery. So teachers are incapacitated to report to work, and the government is tending to give ignorance to that. And thanks to the honorable members of parliament who are now realizing that at least we have got a situation which needs to be addressed in the educational system in our country. They are now starting to talk about it in parliament. But we still have got people who are stubborn, people like Professor Mtuli, who actually boast about having a budget surplus when civil servants are not when civil servants are being paid slavery wages. So they must awaken up, and we are not going to even at Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, where I'm the Secretary General. We are not going to fold our hands and watch our educational system collapsing. And we are leading a campaign which we are calling the #Save Our Education ZW, where we are calling upon parents and all progressive stakeholders to raise their voice in terms of advocating for the government to capacitate the education sector in our country. Teachers are not demanding too much. Teachers are only demanding the restoration of the agreement that they had with our employer of having a salary of United States 520, which is a binding agreement that we have, and which was actually rubbished by the time when the US dollar was equated to 1:1 with a bond note. So we are saying we do not want any salary increase, but we just want the restoration of the 2018 agreement that we have with our employer. Our health sector is actually far worse more in terms of collapse when we are looking at it, even comparing it to our education sector. But the citizens realized it, that our health sector is collapsed. Actually, when they see the relatives passing away, especially the COVID-19 was an awakening call to our nation, even to the government, when it comes to capacitating our education sector. But also at the same time, when you are looking even at health, nothing more is being done in terms of making sure that the health facility or to the public sector is accessible. The shortage of medical equipment. We are talking about even drugs when one is ill, when you visit the hospital. When they resort to visit even the private hospitals, it's too expensive. And even in our schools, we are talking about the COVID-19 era. There's need also to bring in enough masks, enough PPE material, but this has not been done. And as a result, the health sector is on the collapse, and the education sector is following as well. So it is the duty of us, the citizens of Zimbabwe, to demand what is rightfully ours, because this is a right even according to our constitution. But if we do not demand that, it becomes also a challenge, because the responsible authorities will tend to ignore all these issues again. The set of corruption is too high. And also the challenge that we are now having is that the people who are speaking against corruption will end up being victims for speaking against corruption. For example, we talk about the issue of Hope Oshimongo. He spent so much months in remand prison, actually for figuring out corruption, to an extent that the former Minister of Health, who was fingered in those shenanigans, did not even spend so many days in prison. He was released. But the person who fingered that corruption is bad, end up being in prison. So this is what is happening. Right now we've got schools that are running without water, which is a health hazard. But we've got people who are actually looting those resources. And when we point out that people should be accountable, we end up being persecuted for that. And we know that even in school, in our school systems, there was an allocation of 600 million that was allocated. But when we go to the ministry, that we need also to monitor these resources, where these resources channeled towards, because we've got schools that are operating without adequate materials. They will end up dismissing you and will never achieve the results. So the corruption is at its highest level, but we need to fight it, continue fighting, no matter the amount of persecution. We will need to continue fighting corruption. Our courts are captured, because if one is denied bail, which is a right, and the instructions coming from somewhere, and you can see with the constitutional amendment, they really want even to go further and make sure that they capture even the last element that have not been captured in the judiciary system. The persecution is targeted towards these people who are speaking against injustice, who are speaking against corruption, who are speaking or demanding the provisions of the services that are supposed to be offered by the government. But our judiciary will end up aiding to the persecution by sending those people to jail. I've been a victim. A lot of people have been victims, but nonetheless, we will continue speaking against. Because if it is not us who will do that, then who will do that? And if it is not now, then when will it happen? Those are the questions that should also, that will drive us, that drive even myself, to make sure that we speak against all this injustice that is happening. If I'm given a chance to interact with the President of Zimbabwe, one thing that I will tell him is that, Mr. President, when we are talking about the issues of salaries of teachers, it is not that we want to remove you from office. It is because we want food in our stomach. So, Mr. President, Since you said you are a listening president, why can't you not listen to the issues that are coming in from the people? Please, can you honor your words that you are a listening president and listen to the demands that to these legitimate issues that we are raising as the workers of Zimbabwe? I hope for a Zimbabwe which is democratic. I hope for a Zimbabwe where people can be able to express themselves without even fearing of being abducted, tortured. I cherish a Zimbabwe where the resources of this country are distributed equally in our nation. That is a Zimbabwe that I vision.